we were brought up with the small boats fishing. My father went to bigger boats with the herring, but by the time I come a few years old, or 7 or 8 years old, he was into more small line fishing. So that was more or less what I learned and what I was brought up with. Even at school, before we left school, we would be going with him all summer to sometimes baiting lines for whitings, summertime, sometimes going to Troop Head and fishing for mackerel. The mackerel all summer was something that we enjoyed and looking forward to. Of course, when the summer holidays ended, we had to go back to school, and that's when my father went to the line, starting in mid-September right through to the month of March. The month of March for small boats was a dreaded month, the Poor of March they called it. It was a month that the fish, being full of the run, and wouldn't take hooks, wouldn't take bait, and lay down, and therefore it was a poor month for the small boatmen. As I grew a little older and left the school, went to sea in a slightly bigger boat, to the sea net and herring fishing, and then was the war years was on, and was called up, and between 3 and 4 years spent in the Royal Navy. Coming back to Fraserburgh, I spent a short time at very short time at the herring fishing, and then went back in with my father to the small fishing, the small boat fishing, to baiting lines, and carrying out all the work. My mother, when we were young, shelled and mussels and baited lines when we were very young, and there was always lines on the floor. There was no out sheds at that time. It was just done more or less in the kitchen, where you are one of the rooms where we ate, and where there was cooking, coal fire and ovens, and that's where the work went on. And it was a lot of work. And mornings before we went to school, they would be going at it, and then when we come back, they would be at it again with the fresh lines that my dad took in, and reading them out and preparing them again for the next day. So that was just what we were brought up with. So after the war, I went back to this with my father, and he got a new boat built, 33 foot, from Forbes of St Haven. She built her in the yard at Fraserburgh, and he called her the Good Way. So I went a few years with him, and then fishing all round Fraserburgh at the same mussel lines all winter, and the mackerel all summer. It was a full-time job. The winter time seemed to fly away, because you can never get enough hours when you're sailing, mussel, baiting, reeling lines. It just took up the whole winter. So after a while, my father, elder brother and I decided we would have a boat to ourselves as well. So we got one built 1953, and I called her the Virtuous. So I had a 4 or 5 years with my brother, and going at the same fishing, and mussel lines and mackerel, and sometimes grade lines, now and then with grade lines, catching, of course the small lines cast haddock and cod mostly. Well, they called it the haddock line, but it was mostly just a mixture of codlins and haddocks, sometimes a little flats as well. Sometimes a few summers we went to the grade lines, and we went 20-30 miles into the sea with a small boat at the grade lines, catching quite a number of skate. And that, at the back of war, there was quite a lot of skate in the ground, and we fished a bit for them as well, and turbot. There was some turbot in that day as well. Well, after a 4 or 5 years, my brother, I decided to have a boat to myself, and that's that I got the Gracious built in 1957, and I fished her for the last 33 years, and had a good livelihood out of her, doing the same thing, mussel lines and mackerel, and quite a lot too of hand lining for cod, which has been a very interesting job. Fishing down as far as Aberdeen, and did a head at on the wrecks, on the wartime wrecks, where the cod gather at times in the spring, and that's been a very interesting addition to small boat fishing as well. We motored to Peterhead, kept the boat there, and fished quite long distances from there, down as far as Aberdeen and well off 30 miles into the sea, just fishing on the top of wrecks, sometimes battleships or merchant ships or whatever it was. Quite a number of the cod seems to culminate on the top of these wrecks, and we've had very good fishing there. So that just recent years, as the cod net has come into force, and we fished a few years with them. To start with, there was plenty cod on them, but they have diminished. They've diminished quite a lot, and the size of the fish have diminished. A very, very small fish, just as a result of overfishing, I suppose, in the whole North Sea. So that has been our life. It's been a healthy life, a good life, and now I am retired, and that's just living with my memories of these many happy days spent in the sea.